Page 153, exercises 11.4 and 11.5, since they're on the same subject. At the top of page 153, they're talking about left-hand leaps. That's what they call them. It's where the left hand has to move large distances. It's quite common in a lot of styles of music. If you play ragtime music, honky-tonk music, a lot of boogie-woogie music, the left hand has to move a lot. And eventually you actually develop a feel for these distances. It takes a while. Take a look at exercise 11.4. This is an example. Look at the last two measures of that exercise 11.4. You're here, and the fingering for it is up to you. They're showing a 5-3-1. You could do a 5-4-2 if you don't want to put a thumb on a black key. You could do a 4-2-1 because you just used the little finger. Probably ought to be prepared to use any of them because you, in one situation versus another, who knows what's going on. So the fingering you'll work out. Then in the last measure you're here, then here. Again, for the fingering and the upper note, upper chord, it's up to you. 5-4-2. I would not do a 5-3-2. A 5-4-2. They're showing a 4-2-1. That's fine. You do a 5-3-1. You'll decide which one. And again, you may have to alter that fingering based on the music you're in at the time and the situation and what goes off after it and whatever. That's what exercise 11.4 is about, leaping left hands. Then in exercise 11.5, they give you a piece, this Gymnopédie No. 1 by Satie. I would encourage you to read about Satie. He's a fascinating individual, very eccentric. And in my opinion, his harmonies are way ahead of his time. I mean, even in this piece and the other pieces, you'll notice the harmonies are a little different. Really very nice. But I'd like to talk a little bit about this piece that starts on 154. At the beginning, in the first four measures, you're using right and left hand both. So you're here. So you can get these. You don't even need the pedal, but you can use a pedal. They're showing pedals, so that's fine if you want. And then starting with the fifth measure, when the right hand has this melody on top, that thing, the left hand has to do all these chords, and that's where the leap's coming in. So the left hand is playing the same thing it did in the first four measures with both hands. So the first four measures you had that. Well, now the left hand has to do it all. It's the same thing. You got to keep it down under the melody because they're right hand. So here you got to have the pedal to have it all, and pedal as far as that goes is overlapping pedal throughout pretty much. And I don't really see a problem with the pedaling. It's pretty straightforward. But I want to talk a little more about this left hand thing. You have to, and in time you will develop this feel, as I said, of where these are, so you can make these leaps without looking. Right now you may have to look. Now when you're looking down at first, hopefully it's just a glance. You're not actually looking down and studying the keyboard. You're just glancing. You just need to see where it is, and you'll have that mental image still there where you can use it then to actually put the fingers. So you're here, and when you actually play the notes, you're looking at the music again by the time you're playing them because you just glance down, and you have to do this regularly. This is a good piece to play. I highly recommend it. The dynamics are very important if you're going to play it. This is not a beginner's piece in my opinion. It's more like an intermediate piece. For the most part, pages 154 and 155 are the same. They could almost just put a repeat sign. But when you get down to the end, then at the bottom of each page they're a little different. And that's the difference. So they could have put a first and second ending on it too. But okay, we won't get into that. That's different. However, I want to point out, let's go down to measure 19. Just the third line down, third measure. Right in front of the left on the bottom staff, you have the E, and then you have this GB thing. And right in front of that, there's a line here, and then a vertical line. That's their indication of telling you to play those notes in the right hand. So because your right hand is here, it's already there, you can do it. And that way you don't have to leap so much. So measure 19 is here. And 20 and 21. And then on 22 you see the line again, but this time it's the other way and it's telling you to do it with the left hand. That time. And then on measure 24 you see the line again, except it's only to the top note. So you're going to play that E in the right hand and the other notes in the left hand. Like so. And then measure 25, it's the D that you're going to play with the right hand. And on measure 26, same thing. And then you're back to left hand doing it all. Then you'll see these lines in various places. This kind of thing I do anyway. Even if they hadn't indicated in the music, if it's easier for me to play some of the notes or all of the notes in one hand, even though it's in the other staff, I'll do that just naturally. It's just part of the fingering technique that I use. So you're always, when you're playing this music, looking for possibilities or where even though it's written in the bottom staff, you might be able to play some of the notes with the right hand. Or if it's written in the upper staff, you may be able to play some of the notes with the left hand. You have to check this stuff out. It's not that just because it's in one staff or the other, that hand has to play it. That's not correct, in my opinion. Some teachers might actually teach that, oh yeah, you got to do it. If that's the way it's written, you got to do it that way. But I completely disagree with that approach. Now when you get down to the bottom of page 155 in the last three measures, the third measure from the end, they've actually split the notes up into the different staffs. Now they could have done this in the others, and they didn't. It's why? I don't know. They didn't. But here on the third measure from the end, the first note is here, and then they put the chord here, you know, split it up between the staffs. That's fine. Now again, if you think it's easier for you to maybe play that A in the second beat with the left hand, play it with the left hand. You don't have to play it with the right just because it's in that staff. That's a pretty good stretch, but you could. And then the other one, it's up to you. And that's about all I really wanted to point out on this piece. It is a slow piece. This is French here, and I don't speak French, so I ain't going to try and pronounce that stuff. Satie was French. And so, yeah, he used French words in his music. So they tell you it's slowly and mournfully. It's a very, you'll find all kinds of recordings. You search YouTube on this Gymnopédie, is that it? Gymnopédie? And you can listen to all of them. They're just gorgeous, but they're all very, very gentle. You put somebody to sleep with them. To decide what very soft is, but it's very soft, very gentle. Now here you're going to crescendo up until you get to here. That D is sort of the C and the D. That's like where you're headed, and then you come back off. Starting on measure 9, melodies first, right hand, then you're going to play those chords in the right hand. You have an F sharp in the chord, but the melody was F sharp. So we don't want to keep hearing that F sharp melody over and over and over, played, so it's not like this. We only want to hear the melody note one time, and it's just going to ring out. So these chords have to be soft so you can tell the F sharp in the chord blends in with the rest of the chord. It doesn't stand out And that'll take some practice. Now here it says it's forte, which is the melody. And then very soft. Get louder. Stay loud. Die away. I can't talk and play at the same time. At center, so if you want to play this piece, work out the fingering first, because it's got some tricky fingering in it. Work out the leaps in the left hand and which hand is playing which notes. Leave the pedal out of this until you learn it. Learn it first. Get the dynamics in the way you want them, and then finally you can add the pedal in. It's just overlapping throughout. I like to hear a break in the phrases. I'll leave that up to you. A lot of times the break is built into the music because you get a quarter rest in the right hand, which gives you that break. But not always. It's like, look at the third line down. After all the dotted half notes in the right hand, and you start with the quarter notes, that's a new phrase, and it'd be nice to have a little break in the right hand between those measures. So between the last measure with the dotted half notes here, I'd lift the pedal up with the hands so I can get a little silence between them. But you can connect it all together if that's what you prefer, I suppose. It's the same thing in measure 26. I like a little silence here, so I would lift the pedal up before I go on.